All right, now this is the one that I cut into sections so that I had lots of places to wedge these guys. So I'm just pulling out a few of the sections. Here's another one that was super, super thin and really shriveled, but I figured why not try and save it. And you can see once this bottom part like this gets translucent, there's just no way to save it. That's totally fine. You can either just break it off like this, and then you can see this one has little roots, if it'll focus, coming up on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this paddle. It may or may not survive. It's quite thin and shriveled, but it could easily perk up as well because these guys are pretty tough. So I'm gonna save that one. Here's a large, this one was doing really poorly. It was super thin and shriveled, and it has really plumped up. It is sending out roots all over the place. Here, here, here at its junctions, if we can see them. There we go. Yep, you can see even on the top here and here and here. So it's going to town, but the bottom roots are coming out quite well. I think I'm going to separate off this leaf. I think this is going to get in the way, and we'll see if it will root itself. Yeah, that's going to be better. Don't know if I showed this one. This one fell out. If I can get it to focus here. The roots are kind of laying against the... There we go. You can see them a little better there. It's getting some good roots. All right, we got another one that's gone mushy. This is another one of the really, really thin ones that I figured probably wouldn't survive, but why not try? Let's separate it here and see what this segment looks like. Yep, this guy's got little bitty, 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 bitty roots coming out, so I'll keep him. All right, this is a Thanksgiving cactus. Cutting, you can see the roots coming off, and it's good. It's not mushy or translucent at all. I know with the water reflecting, it can kind of look a little... All right, now these two have fallen off of one of these larger ones, and that's fine. They're both super thin and very translucent, and I'm just gonna toss them. That one's attached a bit, so I'm gonna have to pull the whole sponge out. I'm trying to get all the free ones. Here's another leaf that fell off of something, not sure what, but again, not viable, which is fine. This guy is deformed. Look at that. Look at the little lip that's coming off on this one. But anyways, he's got roots going. He's pretty thin and shriveled looking, but now that he's got roots forming, he could likely perk up quite fast. Once they get a few roots going, they can really, really recover quickly. This guy is just thin and shriveled. I don't see any roots forming, and he has damage, just previous damage here on the leaf, so I'm not going to save that one either. Another little Thanksgiving cactus, Slumbergia. There we go. Got some roots, and we got it attached to the sponge here. I had two little conophytum tops you can see here, and these guys have been in a cutting tray. They got peed on by a cat. They got almost frozen when the heater got removed. They got burned when the heat lamps were on for a week straight. These poor little babies. Well, a couple of them came out of their little shells and completely detached from their roots, and they've just been sitting around, and I have just been too sick to deal with them. And so I saw them the other day in their pot, bone dry, completely just laying there, and I thought, you know what? They're gonna die anyway, so I'm gonna put them on a sponge. So I found a couple of the little holes that were just the right size that I could just kind of set them like this to where they stood up. I don't know if you can see that, but just to where they stood up nicely. And that was about a week ago. And I honestly believed I would come back to find them mush. I am so surprised right now. Do you see this? Do you see this little root growth? So sponges and conophytum cuttings may go well together. We will see. This is like better success rate by far than what I've had with other, which again, this is only two little things and only one of them is rooted, but this is a really quick, that's what I mean by, it's a really fast, one of the fastest rootings that I've seen with these guys, especially for how far gone these were. If you're doing healthy, you know, great cuttings, they can root quite quickly, but when they're pretty far gone. So that's awesome. Look at this. This is just amazing. And it's still kind of shriveled slightly, so I'm not worried about it getting too much water. And this one's still firm, and since that one rooted, it may do so as well. So I will leave that there. All right, let's pull this sponge out. We can see the roots there, how they're attached. So I'm just gently, I'm really surprised how well, like, this root is pulling out of the inside, like it was in this crack and really attached, and it's just, if you just gently pull, it just comes right off. It didn't tear any of them. It didn't leave any roots behind, which I am really, really surprised. Again, like I said, I have zero problem tearing the sponges, but I don't want to plant them particularly. I would rather reuse them. So there we go. Great, great new root growth. These guys, some of them with a larger root growth here, they're not going to stay on a sponge much longer. I'm going to go ahead and pot them up and get them growing some good soil roots. Another good root. Nice roots on this guy. Ah, we got another rotten one here. So this one is just not viable. There was no roots that came out of it ever, and look how thin and shriveled. It was really sad, but you never know. Now, with this guy, again, I'm gonna pull this bottom one off and take a look. If there's no new growth, then we'll just toss the whole thing. I really wanted to hang on. But there is, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a whole little ring of white new roots. So I'm going to keep this one. And these two I'm going to let go. They're really, really shriveled and I just don't need them. This one, that's all new root growth here. It's not long, but it's dense. Yep, we got good root growth coming off on this one. That was a little bit of the old paddle that was still stuck on that I didn't want to remove because I was going to hurt it. But it's got good new buds coming around here, root buds. That's good. Another one that's not rooting, you can see that's just decaying here. It's not from being overwatered. It's not because this is too moist. It is just, it wasn't viable. Not all leaves are viable once they get to a certain point, especially. Okay. But both of these have some nice white root growth, and even though they're really thin and shriveled, I can just tell by their texture that they will perk up. So I'm going to keep those. I like when I'm planting, usually I don't save single petals on stuff like Easter cactus because they're just common enough and they're super easy to propagate and I just don't need them. However, if I have multiple petals, then I will keep multiple others to go with them because you can start a really dense, nice pot with a lot of these single petals and plant them all, and they're really low, and then all of the new growth will come from here and be nice and good. So if I save one petal, well, these aren't really petals, but you know what I mean. If I save one leaf segment off of a Easter or Thanksgiving cactus, then usually I will save, you know, at least a dozen so that I can have a good dense mat. This one's got good new root growth too. Really nice. Nice. All right, and the last but not least, here we go. Look at that. I can't believe how much some of these have perked up. They were so, I mean, they were looking, you know, like this and just sad, and they're really perking up. Alrighty, this video has gone on for 20 minutes. I can't believe it. Okay, I am going to wash all of these sponges out really well. I'm probably going to use a little bit of alcohol and rinse that out, let them set, and then rinse that out really well, and then wash them really well with peroxide, and let them dry out a bit, and then I will I'm going to rinse all of these containers out just to get any little bit of bacteria or smell from the few that weren't rooting, and put them all back. But as far as an update, I am tickled pink. I am very, very happy with the results and the lack of rotting as compared to when you're doing it in direct water. And some of these orchid cactuses would have been fine rooted in water or soil possibly, but these Easter cactus cuttings would not have survived in soil. They were too far gone and just too dehydrated to be able to have the oomph to make roots in dry soil as well. And wet soil is just no good for these guys. But so far the sponges are letting some air circulation. It's very obvious because these roots have fine hairs like soil roots. And time will tell when we replant them, but they look much more like soil roots than they do water roots, which is amazing. If you haven't watched the video that I did on different types of roots, soil, air, water, etc., you could check that out. I might put a link in the description box below, but they're actually different kinds of roots. And so people root plants in a lot of water and then think, oh good, it has a big established root system, now I can plant it in soil and it'll be healthy. And then when they plant it in soil, it dies or really has a stressful period before it recovers. And the reason is soil and water roots are quite different most of the time. And the water roots actually have to die back, and then the whole plant has to make new soil roots, which then of course brings up the question, why plant them in water at all or put them in water at all to root? Why not just put them directly into soil? And there are a lot of reasons to just put them directly into soil, but one of the reasons to do water rooting is when plants are extremely, extremely stressed or dehydrated. They can actually absorb some water and get a little bit more strength, and then plant them in soil, and then they have a little bit more reserves to work on a new root system in a more harsh condition. But with this, it seems like the sponges are a fairly good in between. It gives them moisture that they need and that they can grow towards, but they're not just immersed in water. Water roots, the main difference is that they have to adapt to get oxygen out of the water that they're actually in instead of out of the air from the soil. And so when we take the roots that have been getting oxygen out of water and we plop them into soil, they can't get oxygen, and the plant can actually suffocate, even though it's in a great airy compost or whatever, and a gritty mix, and seems to have plenty of air, you know, but it's actually just because of the type of roots, and those roots cannot absorb the air from the oxygen from the air. They have been doing it from the water so that the plant wouldn't die that way. Because if you take soil roots and immerse them in water for a long period of time, the plant will actually suffocate. It's not actually overwatering a lot of times when they die. It's actually suffocation, which is interesting. But like I said, these roots really, and I wish my camera was focusing better today, but they really look like soil roots, and I'm super excited about that. Even if they were water roots, I'm totally fine with this because these guys needed the extra moisture and TLC to get plump enough to be able to go into soil. But I just thought I'd mention it because they look great. They look like soil roots. So far so good on the sponge experiment. I will keep you guys updated, and I am super curious to see how these clean out and if they smell sour quickly again, or as long as nothing rots, if they stay really well. So I'll keep you updated on all of that and how the rest of these cuttings go. I think I'm going to take a string of pearls, or the string of tears rather, and let me see, where is it here? Since that wasn't going so well, just curled up on top for multiple of them, I think I'm gonna put them in between and just gently pinch them in between like that, where most of the leaves and stem is out, but certain portions of the stem are pinched between the sponges so that they can get a bit more direct contact and root, and see how that goes, because this one is rooting quite well all along the ends where it was in contact with the sponge. It's just kind of hard because you can't really pin it down to the sponge, and it just kind of only a few places were actually in contact with it when it's curled around like this just on top. And so I think I'm gonna pinch it in between and see how that does. Okay, that's it for today. I will talk to you guys soon, and happy growing.